Is Arpan, and I have around 9 years of experience in BizTalk integration tools as well as SSIS and SSRS. I have worked on BizTalk 2006, 2009, 2010, and 2013, and recently, I started working on 2016 as well. Uh, okay, so starting in the beginning, I would like to give a brief idea about what exactly is a BizTalk and why Microsoft has introduced this tool and what are the basic requirements to install BizTalk and where exactly we can apply BizTalk tool in a real-time project. So BizTalk is a Microsoft tool which is used to provide B2B. B2B means business to business integration, where you have two parties who wants to communicate with each other, and due to some complexities, they are not able to communicate. Like one is the Chinese company, they want to communicate with some company in the US, so they need to integrate. So and they have some protocols, and and both of the companies have different protocols, but they to merge and to integrate between each other, we need to understand those protocols. It is possible to use any .NET language or maybe a Java language, which will be helpful to implement those protocol. We can simplify those protocol in language, and then we can integrate both of the parties. But instead of that, because that will require lots of understanding of the system, as well as, okay, that's a default thing, but that will require lots of coding for anyone to understand what exactly and how exactly we're going to integrate it. Microsoft came up with this integration tool, which is pretty helpful. There are inbuilt standards which any firm can use to integrate with other party. There are schemas, there are maps, there are orchestration. Even if you're integrating into a system and you want to manipulate your data, and another thing which is the added advantage from stock is that you can integrate with any adapter. When I say adapter is a connector. It can be a SharePoint, it can be a web service, it can be a file. We are picking a file from a file location, and then we are sending it to a third party or to our parties, and it can be any format of file. BizTalk will understand it, and BizTalk will do its magic, and it will send the files to to the destination party. Okay, so going forward, so this is one BizTalk is one tool where we have this integration. There are other tools available in the market, like web methods are there, and we have TIPCO and MuleSoft is there. So BizTalk is mainly focused on the Microsoft side, and it was introduced back in 2000, and then we have version upgradation happening every now and then, like every couple of years or every 1 year, where they're enhancing the BizTalk. Okay, so now where exactly we can implement BizTalk, in what kind of scenarios we can implement BizTalk. Okay, so scenarios like BizTalk is useful in pretty much in every industry. Like I have some real-time examples where we can see it's applicable for insurance domain, it can be applicable for healthcare domain, it can be applicable for energy and utilities. I have seen it working in the publishing, media and publishing domain. I have seen it working in public transport. So any kind of a communication between two parties where you need to integrate, where you need to communicate with them, you can use BizTalk in that. And let's say example, how can say, okay, so there is a project which I worked on that was for healthcare domain, and in all the in US we have multiple clinics, and each clinics usually gather data from a patient, like what is the age of the patient, what is the name of the patient, and what kind of test results or what kind of test that we should conduct on that patient. So all this information was filled in a computer by one of the receptionists or one of the operator in the clinic, and then usually we need to claim you can say their we need to check their insurances if that insurance is valid for that person or not. So what we used to do, from once that person or operator or receptionist enter the information about the patient, it creates a message and sends it to BizTalk. Then that BizTalk does its magic, and then it sends the message to the third party where we use to validate the personal information if that the insurance is valid or not. So those kind of things we were doing, and it was returning, okay, the person is valid, the insurance is valid, and if it's not valid, so that kind of information was coming back to BizTalk, and BizTalk was again, displaying it on the screen. So now, someone may say, okay, we can do it in .NET as well, we can do it in Java as well. That's totally right, but this is just one clinic. Just try to understand here, there is one clinic and they are having one kind of a standard structure. Okay, so maybe they have like 50 or 20 50 or 100 fields which are in one format, but I'm talking about integration at very, very large scale, where we have around 500 1,000 clinics where they are working in a different schema. So when I say schemas, it means a different field structure they are having. So in that kind of scenario where you don't have leverage, you don't have a leverage to be static, because in today's world, everything is being dynamic. Tomorrow, maybe today we have 1,000 clinics and my client says, okay, we need to integrate more clinics, there are 100 more clinics coming in and we need to integrate that. So in those kind of scenarios where dynamic is pretty fast, your system is pretty fast, and it's changing rapidly, dynamically, at those point you need a system, or you need a tool which will integrate all the clinics or all these systems with one, and that's where BizTalk can be helpful. And also, where we have information, like we need to process huge amount of data. We are gathering lots of information. Okay, in transportation domain, I remember there was a real-time example where, in Europe, if you're traveling by okay, so as of now, Europe is a combination of 20 to 30 member states. Okay, so we have like France, then we have Belgium, we have Poland, we have Spain. All these countries are working together, like they are one nation, right? So if suppose, I'm from France, I'm a citizen of France, I'm traveling from France to Italy, and maybe some cop stops me in Italy, and he checks my license. Maybe, I have committed some felony in France, but I'm traveling in maybe Belgium or some other country, and he checks it. So that kind of information, he feeds his information in the handheld tool or maybe in the system. So through BizTalk, we integrated all these nations, all these member states, and we were able to check drivers information. So that was just for normal citizens. At the same moment, we can implement a system where we can check information about the trucks or transportation companies. So those kind of things can be done. And BizTalk is having added advantage, where you can use the extra add-ons, like, when I was giving the example of healthcare. So we have a standard which is called HL7, which is specifically designed schemas, designed structures for to be used in BizTalk for healthcare domain. On the same way, we have EDI X12, which can, deal with your electronic data interchange, like invoices, purchase orders, these kind of information. On the other hand, we have Swift accelerators. So these all, it's very, very dynamic, customer oriented. So these are the things which make BizTalk a pretty useful tool for everyone. So this is pretty much on what is BizTalk and why we are using it. I do know, BizTalk is pretty expensive tool, but on the other hand, we do need to see the advantage of the tag Microsoft, which is being associated with BizTalk, and Microsoft is providing you all amount of help, or wherever the problem is there, they have warranty period. So everything is associated with Microsoft, and the Microsoft product is better always. Now, let's talk about basic BizTalk structure. Let me see if I can get an image. Later on, I can share a PPT with you, but let me share an architecture diagram with you guys. Let me Google it, because it's pretty much standard with everything. Okay, I'll just okay. Let's take this one. Okay. So here, if you see in this diagram, we have a system A, which is trying to talk to system B, and it can be vice versa as well. So system A and system B is being integrated using Microsoft desktop server. So what exactly is happening? So system A is sending some information. BizTalk is, doing its magic on that information. Maybe, it's validating, it's converting, it's maybe, changing some values, taking some decisions, and then sending that information to system B. So BizTalk has this artifacts. Artifacts are like, we can say uh, various components in BizTalk which are being used while you are developing your BizTalk solution. So we have receive adapter, receive pipelines, maps, orchestration, schemas. Then we have BizTalk Bre policies, and on the same way we have send pipeline and maps as well on the send side. So once we receive the information, it's usually received by receive adapter. That adapter can be file adapter. It can, as I mentioned earlier, it can be any source of information. It can be from SQL as well. It can be from Oracle as well. It can be from file. It can be from your web service. It can be from a SharePoint. Anything. It can be from MSMQ as well. It can be from MQ series. So we can receive the message because we have inbuilt receive adapters which can be pretty much useful when you're receiving the information. And same way when we are sending the information to your target system, we have similar adapters. So this is where you are receiving the information. Then we have these receive pipelines and send pipelines. So these pipelines are like when you are so once you have received this message, you obviously you need to validate that message. You need to, maybe your party is sending a message with the encrypted information, right? You need to decrypt it. So to decrypt those, or to understand or maybe validate that message, you need these receive or send pipelines. Receive is when you're receiving the message, you need to validate that message. You need to decrypt that message. You need to check various information about that message. That's where the receive pipeline comes into picture. And same way we have a send pipeline where you need to while sending an information to system B, we might need to convert that. I'm receiving a message in a text file, or maybe in XML, or maybe in you can say CSV, comma separated value, or maybe Excel file. And but my system B says, "Oh, boss, I can only understand a message which is in XML, so I need to convert that message." And one major thing I forgot to tell you, that BizTalk understands only XML. Okay. Why I'm bringing this up now, because in later stage or when you're working with the messages, you need to have understanding about the XML structures. Because one thing is, XML is pretty light, it's very lightweight language, and it's just with the we don't have any predefined structure for XML. Any tag can be any word or any keyword or anything can be a tag. You know that, I hope you do understand what exactly is XML. And start and end tags are there, and you can play around with that. So BizTalk understands XML no matter what kind of messages you are sending or receiving. So I can receive an Excel file, I can receive a CSV file, I can receive a maybe .dat file, even I can pull data from table in the XML format. And then this receive pipeline comes into picture where we are converting those messages. This is also part of your receive pipeline and send pipeline, where you are converting that message into XML, and then again sending it back to the system B. Maybe from XML you need to convert it into Excel file. So conversion is happening on receive pipeline and send pipeline. Then there is an artifact called map. And mapping, as the name defines, mapping is pretty much suppose okay, system A and B are there, as I mentioned earlier. So system A wants to communicate to B, and obviously their way of communication, or maybe their protocols are not same. Okay. So in just let's take an example. Maybe in system A we have okay, let's say we want to transfer employee information. So in system A we have something like employee name, and then employee age, and employee ID, something like this. And in system B we instead of employee, we can say it's like no, not customer, something maybe e name, something like e age and eid, and it can be in any order. It's not specifically, we need to be in same order. So maybe system B is storing that information something like this, and they have some extra e address and e employee phone number. So such kind of information. Okay, just a second. Oh, sorry for my bad. Yeah. So we need to when we are converting the information, when we are communicating, or when we are conveying a message from system A to B, we need a map. So that map will map this information, employee name with your e name, and employee id with employee id, employee age with employee age, and this can be blank as well. That depends on your requirement. So map is all about mapping your information from system A to system B. Okay, and there can be questions about, okay, what about the field data types? I'm receiving a you can say a text, or maybe I'm receiving a floating value, or maybe I'm receiving an integer value. So how that can be tackled in system B? Or so all those things can be tackled in map. Map is okay, there is an example I can give you. So my system A is sending a date format, suppose 2016-02, that's a month, and 25. So this is the format for that YY MMDD. And my target system says, boss, I can't understand this YY MMDD, so I need it in DD YY, something like this. So this thing also can be done in your maps. And maps are also useful when you need to pull some information from the database. Suppose while sending this information, while you want to send this employee information from system A to B, you need to validate that employee is genuine or not, or maybe that employee is maybe you need to do some calculation on his name. So those things can be done in maps. So maps are mainly uh, to do your you can say integration or mapping of fields from system A to system B. So then comes your orchestration. So what exactly is orchestration? Orchestration is nothing, it's just the flow of the message, like how you are going to why exactly we need orchestration. Orchestration is to manipulate your message on a bigger scale. Okay, and it can be helpful for routing as well. But some of you will say that's we already doing in map, we already playing around with the message, we are already playing with the fields, then why we need the orchestration? So orchestration has a major not a major, like it's a bigger picture of your map. Like orchestration can be helpful. Map is just about field to field mapping. Orchestration is more of how you want to tackle your message. Maybe you want to send that message to party B and C and D as well, but you want to how should we say that? Okay, yeah, maybe with the time bound, like I don't want to send it immediately, I want to send it after a couple of hours or maybe 5 hours. And it can be a transactional as well. Your orchestration do have this properties which are like transactional, which supports your ACID properties. And I think you guys already know that what exactly is ACID properties. When you are dealing with the bank transactions, at that moment ACID properties are a huge advantage for you. And on top of it, orchestration has information about okay, all these map here, the map is in the receive port, but that map can be called in orchestration as well. Excuse me. So an orchestration can have multiple maps called based on the criteria. Like if it's employee, call map 1. If it's a student, maybe then call map 2. If it's something else, then call map 3, 4, 5. And that also can be a conditional. And then you have this information like from one. Orchestration is kind of a function, where you're calling all the information, you're applying your rules, and you're sharing the information in that particular orchestration, and then trying to do its business. And now this is pretty much orchestration. We will go in details like each and every function in detail of orchestration later on. Uh, in BRE, so what exactly is BRE policy? BRE are something like business rule engine policies. Okay, so normally what we see in programming world, whenever we develop a code, tomorrow my client says, okay, boss, I need to do some changes. Okay, instead of 5 into 5 or like x into y, I need to do x into y into z. So in those scenarios, what in normal world, what we usually do, we need to redeploy the code, redevelop and redeploy the code. But here, added advantage in BizTalk is you have the something called BRE policies. So BRE policies, provide you this information, like, you can create rules, like, suppose I have already created a rule which is like x into y. But in future, my client said, as I said, x into y into z. So I will update my policy to x into y into z and deploy it. Even while deploying, my previous policy is active. So once I say activate this, it's just a click of your mouse, activate this. So it will start using the new policy without undeploying anything, without any downtime. The new BRE policy will be effective at that same moment. So that is the advantage of BRE. And BRE provide you flexibility to play around, play more with your messages, which we are already doing in map and orchestration. More on BRE policies later on. And what about this BizTalk message? What exactly it's doing here? So BizTalk's basic structure is, whatever the message processing happens, it's always communicating with your SQL box. So when I say SQL box, SQL is your backend of your BizTalk server. So receiving a message or your artifacts or every information is stored in your message box. So if I say, if you see this diagram, we are receiving this message, right? So BizTalk works on a pub sub model, publish subscribe model. So these receive adapter, receive pipelines, these are publishing that message in BizTalk message box. From there, maybe a map is picking it up, or maybe orchestration is picking it up, or maybe a send pipeline is picking it up. So depending on, it's like there can be, okay, if I go deep, what exactly is pub sub architecture or publish subscribe architecture? It's like, okay, so I have a couple of employees. One employee is working for marketing team, and another one is working for my financial team. Okay, so I have designated them. Okay, and if I say, hey, employee, raise your hand who is from the financial team, so the financial team employee will raise its hand. So that's where the publishing and subscribing. So when I said they are, one is from finance team, another one is from marketing team, I publish that information. So when I said raise your hand if you're from marketing or if you're from financial team, that's where I'm subscribing that information. I'm subscribing some. So in BizTalk, every message is designated to something. Okay, every message has its own purpose. Pub sub architecture is there. So artifacts are publishing, like, I have information like this map. Okay, so if I say there is a map 1 which is dealing with your employee schemas, okay, and there can be a map 2 which is dealing with your student history. So that map is polling for the information. If the information is being shared by or shared for the employee, if the employee message is received, that map 1 will be invoked. And in the same way, a student message is coming into the BizTalk, then map 2 will be invoked. So this is pretty much pub sub architecture, and this all publishing and subscribing information is being stored in BizTalk message box. So all these artifacts like map, receive pipeline, orchestration, BRE policies, they're continuously communicating with message box to pull out